come on down this way. Yeah, let's get out the way we came in. Okay, on. Come on back. Everybody down. Charles? Yeah, right here. Hey, go out the way we came in. Yeah. You got something? Come on, guys. All right, guys. Everybody. Right here. Yeah. We got it. How's the way out of here? Go right. No, come in. We gotta get everybody out. Let's go. Let's get some lights. Let's go.
Many people ask me, what was it like that day?
Command post Tower 1. To all units. Evacuate the building. Command post to all units. Command post to all units.
And I think what they're asking is, what was it like to be part of history? And then I tell them my story. And I tell them that there were signs of devastation everywhere. But there were also signs of hope. And at this extraordinary time in history, those little moments of caring for another were the difference between life and death.
It's 2 minutes before the top of the hour. AP Network News. Good morning, I'm Ross Simpson. Air Jordan is apparently ready for takeoff. Former NBA superstar Michael Jordan is on his way back to the NBA. President Bush is going to get an earful from Republican members of Congress when he hosts the annual congressional barbecue tonight at the White House. The president visits a school today to tout his education proposals before heading back to Washington. Laura Bush travels to Capitol Hill.
I woke up at 6 o'clock to the ringing of a phone. The meeting that I was supposed to attend was moved from the Marriott Midtown to the Marriott at World Trade.
Watch your step, please. Thank you. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you. Watch your step, please.
This meeting was very important. And I shared a lot of the details with Ruth, my sister. And she said, Ron, you know, stand out. And I said, look, I have a new suit and a nice bright yellow tie. And Ruth thought that was perfect for this meeting. And taking the ferry across in the morning, walking through where the boats are, there was a man with a glass of champagne, you know, cheering people. And he passed a comment that I had a good suit on. You know, he said, that's a good suit. So I felt very confident that things look good, not a cloud in the sky. Let's get this meeting over with.
I worked at the hotel that was between the two towers, and I was a production chef. The Greenhouse restaurant at the back of the hotel was all glass, so when you look up, you had the two towers going up. And when you look out, you had the courtyard. The first time I saw him, I was going there for an interview. It was like love at first sight. They're massive. And they go literally into the sky. And I remember thinking to myself, this is where I want to be.
American 11, climb maintain level 350. American 11, Boston. This is Adam. This is Boston. I turned American 20 left, and I was going to climb. He will not respond to me. Looks like he's turning right.
Two Alpha. Notify Conrad to respond. 10-4.
I was a battalion chief in the 1st Battalion. And my responsibility was for the tip of Manhattan. I'm the first one in my family to be a firefighter. My father was a letter carrier in the post office. And after I became a firefighter, a number of years later, my brother joined the fire department too. Kevin was 3 years younger than me, so it was always this looking up to the older brother, you know, sibling. I'm following in your footsteps, and every now and then I'll do you.
Danny, is that as you good? Yeah, it's good. Chief on it, let the traffic good, over.
Battalion chief was just a great rank. It allowed me to step back a little bit, and yet, at the same time, to be connected to our firefighters.
It's an S5 box is what he called it. I don't think it goes into... These babies are all locked up. We have to start forcing things.
That morning, I had 20 years and 6 days in the fire department. In other words, I could have retired 6 days earlier because I had my 20 years in. But I was enjoying being in the fire department so much that I didn't even think about retiring.
All there was just a connection, bunch of connections. All right. 25.
And then we get a call for a gas leak on the corner of Church Street and Lispenard.
The gas main's right here, right alongside this. The gas line looks like a 6-inch gas main, it says.
That day, I was working as the aide to Chief Viper. And that was a position that I had only done like once or twice.
We have several manhole covers that have blown.
Being a battalion aide is a very important job. But I was always a truck guy. I love being in the truck because you get to break down doors, break windows. It was like being a big kid. Listen, we were never looking forward to people's houses burning down. That wasn't it. But you did look forward to going to fires. You know, it was your job. It's what you were paid to do. And the feeling you got was very intense. And while it was going on, definitely, I've been in a lot of scary situations. But when it was done, you couldn't wait for the next one.
Hello? Yes, hello? What is your name? Okay, my name is Betty Ong. I'm number 3 on flight 11.
Okay.
There's somebody staffed in business class, and we can't breathe in business class. Somebody's got mace or something.
Someone is what in business class?
I'm sitting in the back. Somebody's coming back from business. If you can hold on for 1 second. Anyone know who thinks staff food, you know? I don't know, but Karen and we got stabbed. Okay. Our number 1 got stabbed. Nobody knows who stabbed who, and our 5 has been stabbed. Can anybody get up to the cockpit? Can anybody get up to the cockpit? I think the guys are up there.
When I got to the Marriott, I was early. I mounted the steps that led up to the hotel. People were generally just fussing about, walking about, and just preparing for their day. First thing I wanted to do was go to the bathroom, check my hair, check my tie, make sure I look good for this meeting. So when I came back out, still had time to spare, I walked around the lobby of World Trade Center, always in awe of the Tree of Life windows. And then I walked back and sat down in the hotel lobby.
I go into work. It was already open for breakfast. A very, very busy day because we had like 2 parties that day.
Dave, we got a peppermill, please?
So I cooked all the pasta and the sauces for the banquet parties. And I was stacking it. I'm in the walk-in refrigerator. Doors closed. I guess it's like a sealant. Like you really can't hear what's going on outside. There could be people right outside the refrigerator talking. I can't hear a thing.
I remember sitting in the car with sirens blaring, air horns from the engines in the trucks, and lights on. I remember saying to myself, let me slow down my thinking. Realizing I was going to the largest fire of my life. And initially, I was going to be in command.
As we pull onto the West Side Highway and I look up, it was overwhelming. I could see that the plane went directly through the building. And I see that there's gaping holes in Tower 1. So the ride seemed like an eternity, you know. My mind was racing. It was an extremely frightening feeling. It really was.
We pulled up right in front of the North Tower, and there was a lot of broken glass. I got out of the car, I put on my gear, and I walked into the lobby. And as I walked in, I saw two people to my right badly burnt. My instinct was to help them, but I knew that wasn't my job. My job was to take command. And I knew we had firefighters would come in and take care of them.
As we walked in, we found out that all the jet fuel went down the elevator shafts and blew out the whole lobby. So anybody standing in the path of that blast was dead. You know, maybe 20, 30 people I just seen, you know, basically burnt to death on the floor. It was pretty horrific.
How you doing? It's the fire department. Hi. I'm on the 100th floor of the World Trade Center with 30 people in the northeast corner. It's hard to talk. Yeah. There's a lot of smoke. Right. There's heat. We're all overreacting. Please come right now. All right, no problem. We'll get to you. Please, immediately. They're on the way. Bye.
Scott, exactly the Twin Towers. Yes. Look at smashing the Twin Towers. Straight into the building. Oh my God.
How is it trying so damn low?
You know what? That could be a suicide.
It goes after our way.
People were running around, and I could start to smell kerosene in the hotel lobby. So I walked over to the revolving doors, and I looked out, I couldn't figure out what was happening. And I saw this woman coming through the haze with her hands out. And I just couldn't figure out for the life of me, like, what was wrong with her. And as I went closer to her and as she walked to me, I could see she was badly burnt. And I could see that she was still smoldering. So I brought her into the lobby and I sat her down by the wall. She said she couldn't see and that there was a ball of flame. And her eyes were like pretty much burnt shut. So after a minute or two, after I could get her calmed down a little bit, I asked her name. Said her name was Jenny Ann Maffeo. And she said she was on her way to work. And then she said, "Holy Mother of God, don't let me die." She said, "Help me. Don't let me die, help me."
Chief! We haven't found an elevator yet. You don't have an elevator yet? Did you get that? Any elevators working? We haven't found one elevator.
Captain Tardio came back to me and said he couldn't find an elevator that was working. So that meant that firefighters had to climb. And to the top would be 110 stories.
Elevators. Elevators. What do you got running? Austin, who's running? Find out, see if you get any freight, anything going up?
And as firefighters came in, they came in quietly. There's noise from the equipment we carry, but they didn't say a lot. They were thinking about what lied ahead. And they thought about how they would handle it. And I could remember one lieutenant coming up to me, lieutenant from Engine 33, not saying a word. And we looked at each other, wondering if each of us was going to be okay. And then I told that lieutenant, as I told many other officers that came in, I said, take your firefighters, go upstairs. As you go up, evacuate the building, and then go up to the 70th floor where you'll regroup so we could rescue those that are trapped. The lieutenant turned around, took his firefighters, and as he turned around and started to go upstairs, that was the last time I saw my brother Kevin.
We had a long way to go. But when I was 18, I joined the Marine Corps. And I remember in boot camp It rung back in my head a jingle that we used to say when we were marching, 1, 2, 3, 4, I love the Marine Corps. And that's what that popped in my head when I was climbing the stairs. That old jingle from the Marine Corps in boot camp. It just came right back. It was amazing, because I hadn't thought about that for, my God, over 30 years. And it just all came back to me, you know. And it helped me get through, helped me climb those stairs. The stairways are relatively narrow, but everybody handled themselves very well. Nobody panicked. People were thanking us. Thanks for doing a great job. And I just said to the guys, it's going to be a tough day, but we're going to get through it.
United 175, recycle your transponder, squawk code of 1470. United 175, New York. United 175, do you read New York? Delta 1489, do you read New York?
Delta 1489, go ahead.
Okay, just wanted to make sure you read New York. Hello? Do you see that United 175 anywhere? And do me a favor, you see that target there, the 33-5 climbing? Don't know who he is. We have a hijack. We have some problems over here right now.
Oh, you do?
Yes, I can't get a hold of the United 175 at all right now. And I don't know where he went to.
All right. Okay, I'll see if I have one.
All right. United 175, New York.
Plane has something hit the World Trade Center. Something happened at the World Trade Center. It's not good. Mike and I are here. Yeah, we're both standing here. We're looking right at it. Unbelievable. So, did you try to call? Mike, there's a tree falling down from the thing. See it? See it falling? All right, I love you. Bye. I will. I got somebody with me. We're fine. All right, bye. Mike, let's go check it out. Come on. Stuff is still full. Let's get out of here. Mike, we're gonna get killed. Mike, we're gonna get killed. Mike! Mike!
George has been cutting up a call for some of the information about this incident. As we look at live pictures of the World Trade Center, an airplane crashing into the side of the World Trade Center. This happening is as far as I can tell.
It's a plane crashed into it.
And live pictures from the scene. George, again, tell me, you saw people drop to the street in front of you.
I'm in the walk-in refrigerator for a good 15 minutes. The door is closed. And when I come out of the refrigerator, there's nobody there. There's no kitchen staff, there's no waiters, there's just nobody there. And I'm like, where's everybody at? Where's everybody at? I look into the chef's office and I notice the ceiling is cracked. There's a crack in the wall, there's a little bit of water coming down. And then a guest comes in from the restaurant and I go to tell him, like, you can't be here. You gotta go back out. But I already noticed He had a crazed look in his eye. And then he's like, just go look. Just go look. As I'm pushing the door open, there's something caught in the door. I'm looking at it thinking it's a dead animal. So I'm like, what is this, what is this dead animal doing here? And I look closely, and it's an arm. And then I get ready to go back in. He said, no, 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 no. Go outside and look. As I look around the courtyard, there's nobody there. I saw burning pieces of metal everywhere. I saw pieces of luggage. I had no idea where they came from. I look around the corner, and there's bodies everywhere. As far as I can see, it's like just broken up bodies. Like, that's all I can see, maybe 100 bodies just broken up into little pieces, just arms and legs and heads and everything. And like, so like right away I'm freaking out. And then a body comes falling out the sky and lands right in front of me. Just boom, like loud, and just like breaks up when it hits the ground. And then like a friend of mine, I don't even know where he came from. He's like, did you see that, Kevin? Did you see that? And it's like, yeah, I saw that. So now we're trying to figure out how to get out. He was saying, and probably correctly so, never get on the elevator. And I remember thinking to myself, it's only 2 stories. I would be downstairs before you know it. And I remember pressing the button, thinking to myself, if the door opens up, I'm getting on it. I pressed the button, the door opens up. I look at it, Abdul, I said, come on, you coming, you coming? And he says, no, and he goes all the way. And I get on the elevator, and he never made it out.
You're listening to live, continuous coverage of a plane crash into the World Trade Center this morning. This is 1010 Wins WINS New York. I'm James Faraday. Now for more on the story, 1010 Wins newsman Lee Harris. Good morning, and it is not a good morning in New York City. A major disaster, a plane crash into the World Trade Center. We're on the line with 1010 Wins account executive Joan Fleischer, a witness to this terrible unfolding scene. Joan, could you maybe just recap for those just joining us what happened?
When I was on the floor with Jenny Ann, I held her hand and I yelled, numerous times for EMS, for emergency services, for help. Nobody was coming. People were just running by one after another. And I got concerned. So I ran into the bathroom, pulled a clean plastic bag, and I filled it with water and patted Jenny Ann down with it. And I could see that Jenny Ann's clothes were fused into her skin. While we were on the floor, and when there was no emergency services help or aid coming, Jenny Ann was getting more and more concerned that she was going to die. She said, "Sacred Heart of Jesus, save me. I don't want to die." And I said, "Are you Catholic?" She said she was. So I said to her, "Let's say the Lord's Prayer." Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil.
His vantage point on 14th Street, and again, we're talking about a plane crash into the World Trade Center. Kai, what did you see and what can you see now?
Well, I saw the plane come overhead. I happened to be looking south towards the World Trade Center. There's now another explosion occurring right at this moment in the other building.
There's no doorway. Scott, let's get out of here. Get out of here.
What you're seeing is both towers of the World Trade Center on fire. A second plane the size of a passenger jet flying into the second tower of the World Trade Center. And this is a horrible tragedy unfolding in New York City on this, what was a bright sunny morning. Joan, obviously the situation has been growing worse as you've been watching it. How much worse does it appear to be than initially?
Stay together. Let me know what's going on. We're going to have to plug in. One way to go. Second plane is clear for the color. Yeah. There's Scott.
We knew at that moment that our problem just doubled in size. So at that point, we met in a football huddle. And Deputy Chief, the Division Chief, Pete Hayden, gave us an order. Half of us would stay in the North Tower. The other half would proceed to the South Tower.
Then it was my turn. It was my turn to go stand in front of Chief Hayden. Our orders were to go upstairs in the North Tower for search and rescue. And one of the firemen from Rescue 1 looked up, he said, "We may not live through today." And we stopped, and we thought about what he said. He said, "You're right, we may not." And we stopped, and we took the time to shake each other's hands and wish each other good luck. And it's great knowing you. And hope I see you later. And of all those guys I was surrounded by, I'm the only one that's alive. They all died. So I walked over to where my guys were standing by, guys from Ladder 6. And I say to them, "It's all right, guys, here's the deal. It's a raw deal, but this is what we have to do. We have to go upstairs for search and rescue in this building." And the last thing I told them was, "They're trying to kill us, boys. Let's go."
The repeater radio system got knocked out when the first plane hit. So Chief Pipe is having a horrible time trying to get in touch with anybody on the upper floors.
Back to the car. Back in the console, you'll see a radio. Turn, there's a little knob, turn it and just remove the radio. I'm going to take this out.
And that's when he sent me back out to see if I could grab the repeater radios. When I stepped out of the building, it was absolute chaos at this time. People trying to go out, firemen trying to come in. And I look up, and there were hundreds of people hanging onto the building. That's one of the things that sticks with me every day.
Look, another man. Oh, God almighty. Oh, God. Oh, God almighty. Oh, God.
I can't imagine being in those people's shoes, having to make the choice of either burning to death or I mean, jumping and knowing you're dying. Horrible. That's absolutely horrible. Poor people.
When we heard the crashing sound, it was something that we never heard before.
Oh, we're going to cancel out. Got the repeater on. Put your radio on channel 2.
But we knew exactly what it was every time it happened. Another life being lost. And it would rattle us for a couple seconds. But it was almost motivating us to push even further, to get to the people that were trapped. And I grabbed the PA system and I made an announcement to wait, if you can, we're coming.
We need you to come over to the Hudson River, okay? Top Avalon first, step up to the Hudson River. You understand? Aviation 6, okay. Aviation 6%, okay. Be advised that on the 106th floor, the floor is crumbling. People are trapped at that location. Got it, Central.
In 1993, we were able to rescue people off the roof. So having experienced this somewhat before, we kind of thought that was going to be the same game plan. And I had so much confidence in the skill of this pilot flying this helicopter that I was like, if there's somebody there, we're going to be able to get them off.
You can't call 845 off. 45, let's get you off. 10-5 it.
But as we're approaching, you could start to see the size and scope of this.
You stand by. You stand by what? We'll get Harbor Base. Say what Central Harbor Base, Kate.
First thing we did was survey the rooftops of both the North and the South Tower.
Command post on the air, command post.
The South Tower, the amount of smoke that was billowing up and coming over the roof, just, it was out of play.
Aviation on the air. Aviation on the air. Aviation 3, proceed with the message. People hanging off the windows about 5 floors from the top. There's at least 50 people hanging on.
We proceeded over to the North Tower, and there was an opening by the northwest corner.
Corner Central. 57 Truck 1, proceed, thanks. We're taking a look at the northwest corner of the north building.
I could make out the little pebbles on the roof. I could see the individual pebbles. That's how close we were.
The male hanging on the side of the building on the Church Street side.
We continued circling the towers. If we could have saw somebody there, we would have made a try, but there was nobody up there. My heart just sunk into my stomach, and I'm looking out the window of the helicopter, and I'm seeing people. I'm seeing mothers, I'm seeing fathers, I'm seeing brothers, I'm seeing sisters, literally, and standing on the damaged portion of the building what looked like white napkins, handkerchiefs, tablecloths, and they were waving them to let us know we need assistance. We need assistance. Can you help us? And there were so many, and there's nothing you can do, but you're witnessing it. You're watching it. And I was reading those facial expressions and those look in the eyes. And I'm sure they were looking back at us, and they maybe were reading our facial expressions that it was bad. It was very bad.
There was nothing he could do for us. I think we actually waved to him, and that was it, and then they flew away. So I told everybody to call their families. I called John, my fiance. My voice shook, and John asked me what was going on. And I said, John, we're on the 89th floor. We're trapped here. The door to the stairwell is jammed shut, and we can't get out. And I don't know when it'll get fixed. I don't know what will happen. But we are trapped on the 89th floor. I think at that time, when we were making our phone calls, there were probably a lot of people throughout the World Trade Center making similar phone calls, calling friends, family, loved ones, and communicating probably fear, anxiety, and love. I think all of those emotions were just running rampant throughout everybody.
Mom, it's Steven. My building got hit by a plane, and right now I think I'm okay. I'm safe now, but it's smoky. I just want to say how much I love you, and I will call you when I'm safe. Okay, Mom? Bye.
Hon, I love you. I don't know what's going on. Tell the kids. Save this message your whole life. I love you. I don't know what's going on here. Bye.
just wanted to let you know I love you, and I'm stuck in this building in New York. There's lots of smoke, and he just wanted you to know that I love you always.
The FBI is looking into reports that there was a plane hijacking before the crashes, and while we don't have any reports of casualties at this time, looking at the scene, the gaping holes in both towers, the smoke and the flames, it is reasonable to assume that there has been massive loss of life in New York City this morning. Again, this makes the World Trade Center bombing of about 9 years ago look like a relatively minor incident.
After the second plane hit, a rumble came through the lobby. I can remember standing up in shock, wondering, what the hell is that? I knelt down beside Jenny Ann again, and I said to her, you know, we should try and get out of here if we can. Around the same time, pieces of ceiling were falling. The vapor was getting thicker. You know, you could see a haze, a gray haze, with the kerosene smell was developing more, and people were just panicking and running. And somebody said help was on the way, but we had to walk for the help. That help was on the opposite side of the highway. And as I entered the street, a fireman approached me with a white helmet. Always remember him, and he said, get out of here as fast as you can, run. And so I asked Jenny Ann if she could run, and she said she could. And so our group ran across the West Side Highway. While they were packing Jenny Ann into the ambulance, I leaned over and said to her, "You're gonna make it. You gotta make it now." All I knew was I'd been through something horrific, and all I wanted to do was just go home, have a shower, go back to life. And it was probably 20 minutes when the phone rang, and it was my sister's husband, David McCourt. David asked me if I knew where Ruth was. Ruth was a little bit over a year and a half younger than me. We were very close. Juliana was Ruth's daughter, the most loveliest child you could imagine. And David caught me by surprise. I'm like, David, like, why don't you know where she is? And he said, Ron, they were going to California. They were on the plane that left Boston. United 175. I think I got down on my knees and I cried. I couldn't believe like that, you know. I was literally saying the Lord's Prayer with this woman on the ground of World Trade Center. You know, when my sister's plane hit, the most special people were killed. This was my world, never to be the same again.
The smoke was so thick, it was hard to see. But I was trying not to think too much about the fear. So I would go out and check the door, and it was always jammed. And then the one time I did go out, there was a sudden pounding on the door. And I saw these two white hands coming through. And then the door opened and the smoke went out. And there were two men standing there in helmets with flashlights and an axe. They had come to rescue us. They told us to get out, go downstairs, and run. And they went up to rescue more people. And I also learned that they did not survive. They were such good, brave souls that I do call them angels because I think that they were. And they were doing everything they could that day to make sure that people got out of the tower. And as I said, they went up when they should have gone down to save themselves, but they didn't. They went up and put themselves back in harm's way just to save other people. So I do think they were angels. They were true heroes.
Every firefighter and every first responder knew this was dangerous. They saw the smoke and the flames coming from the top of the building. But they also knew that people were in their greatest moment of need. And they made a personal decision to go into the building to rescue lives. But in the lobby of the North Tower, we had our fire department chaplain, Father Michael Judge. And I could see his lips moving. Because he was praying. It was almost like there's something bad about to happen.
This is as close as we can get to the base of the World Trade Center. You can see the firemen assembled here, the police officers, FBI agents, and you can see the two towers. A huge explosion now raining debris on all of us.
Every cell in my body said, get out of here.
Yoily, in!
And he's telling me to cut his leg off.
Oh my God.
Nobody is coming to save us. We have to get out of this building on our own.
There is still one more aircraft somewhere.
I took the phone and I heard Mark's voice. He said, "Mom, I just want to tell you I love you. There are 3 guys on board who've taken over the plane, and they say they have a bomb. You believe me, don't you, Mom?"
He was on the radio, he was talking to me. And he said, "I'm coming for you, brother. I'm coming for you."
Let all our neighbors know that we shall join with them to oppose aggression or subversion anywhere in the Americas. And let every other power know that this hemisphere intends to remain the master of its own house. My fellow citizens of the world, ask not what America will do for you, but what together we can do for the freedom of man.
I'm 91 years old now, and it's been 60 years this year. There are a few of us left, but very few. I think about the event as it happened, and I go right back to the moment that it happened. I mean, it's there. It's like a movie, run through my brain. I was a Secret Service agent that protected the President of the United States and his wife and family. And I was assigned to protect Mrs. Jacqueline Kennedy. First ladies, previous to Mrs. Kennedy, done things like go shopping, watch ballet, play canasta, a card game, and that's about the most activities the agents had that were with those ladies. And that's not what I aspired to. I wanted to be where the action was. And I did not think it would be with Mrs. Kennedy. I was really mistaken in that belief, it turned out. It was very unusual for her to participate in anything political. She didn't like politics. She told me that she thought she would go on this trip to Texas. She wanted to do everything she could to help President Kennedy get reelected in 1964. They wanted to get out in front early.
The whole trip brings back memories. I can remember everything pretty much in detail. It was like a dream come true for me when I first joined the Secret Service. This is what I wanted to do. My code name was Debut. I think it was just because I was so young. Clint, his code name was Dazzle. He knew Mrs. Kennedy like the back of his hand, and there were just two of us assigned to her at that time. We did everything together. We began to think alike.
Mrs. Kennedy is proving an able campaigner as she charms the crowds with her smile, handshakes, and pleasantries.
Everybody wanted to see Jackie, chanting, "Jackie, Jackie, Jackie." They were like a movie star couple, really. I think he kind of thrived on that. When we got to Fort Worth that night, it was 11 o'clock. Still had a large crowd outside the hotel. We were all in a good mood and felt there was no sign of animosity, anything like that.
570 Radio in Fort Worth, WBAP.
Here is Morning Edition, complete news and weather coverage combining authoritative sources of WBAP and ABC. Brought to you by your 30 conveniently located Buddy's supermarkets.
Good morning, everyone. President and Mrs. Kennedy arrived in Fort Worth from Houston late last night to an enthusiastic reception from huge crowds and spent the night in Suite 850 at Hotel Texas downtown.
Thousands gathered around the Presidential Hotel at Fort Worth this morning in drizzling rain, many starting nearly 3 hours before the Kennedys were to come out. After all, it was Mrs. Kennedy's first trip to Texas, and Texans like to make big impressions. This is Sid Davis with the presidential party in Texas.
I was with Westinghouse Broadcasting Company as a White House correspondent, and I covered Kennedy wherever he went. When the Dallas trip was announced, we were excited at the fact that it would be a good political trip because we knew that Texas was not a Kennedy town or state. So there was some trepidation on the part of the press on what kind of a reception Kennedy would get.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States.
He was inspirational. Even if you didn't agree with him, you couldn't help but like him. You know, we shall go to the moon in this decade and return the astronauts safely to Earth. And everybody says he's nuts. He's crazy.
Why choose this as our goal? And they may well ask, why climb the highest mountain? Why 35 years ago fly the Atlantic? Why does Rice play Texas? We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
Talk about being a gambler. This guy had what the Spanish would call cojones, you know? There was a breakfast that morning, and I think there were about 2,000 or more people there. And President Kennedy really wanted Jackie to be seen by everybody in Texas. Texas was such an important state. He felt that with Jackie along, he would do better.
As you may have noticed, Mrs. Kennedy did not enter with the president. So far, we have no indication of where she may be. And I can tell you from where we are standing, there are quite a few ladies who appear to be quite disappointed that Mrs. Kennedy is not here.
Now, Mrs. Kennedy had indicated that she was not planning to go to this breakfast. And so I went to Mrs. Kennedy's room, and she was preparing to leave the hotel.
Quite a few people in the ballroom are watching the maitre d'. He's the short man that's walking back and forth behind the head table. Now he's pouring coffee. As he moves down the line, he did not stop at Mrs. Kennedy's place.
Then the phone rang, and it was the agent who was with the president down at the breakfast. He said, "Clint, the president wants you to bring Mrs. Kennedy down here." I said, "Oh, she's not planning to go to that breakfast at all." He said, "Clint, you didn't get the message. The president says, bring Mrs. Kennedy down here now." I said, "Okay, I got the message." The door opened, we walked in, and the place absolutely erupted.
When she walked into the room, the crowd just got out of its chairs and started cheering. She was dressed in this two-piece suit, and I'm not a fashion expert, so I said to one of the lady reporters, I said, "Is that pink?" And she said, "Mrs. Kennedy wouldn't be caught dead in pink." I said, "Excuse me, what do you call it?" She said, "You can call it strawberry or raspberry." And I called it raspberry.
Ladies and gentlemen, 2 years ago, I introduced myself in Paris by saying that I was the man who had accompanied Mrs. Kennedy to Paris. I'm getting that somewhat that same sensation as I travel around Texas. Nobody wonders what Lyndon and I wear, but we're...
She'd been through a terrible period previous 4 months. Her baby, Patrick Bouvier Kennedy, died in August. And so she was getting over that. This was her first visit out of the White House in the public. And so it was an uplifting thing for people to see her out and smiling.
Prior to that, you'd never see them hug or kiss or hold hands in public. From that point on, they didn't care who was there. They'd hold hands, they'd hug, and it changed their relationship. It really changed everything.
I've never seen her happier than she was that morning.
Mr. President, we know that you don't wear a hat. We couldn't let you leave Fort Worth without providing you with some protection against the rain.
The time we were ready to leave Fort Worth that morning, we drove out to Carswell Air Force Base and we got an Air Force One to fly to Dallas.
At this moment, 3 special jetliners are supposed to be in the air between Dallas and Fort Worth. Right now, the eyes of Texas and the nation are focused on Dallas.
The day we left, we had a briefing, and everybody was given their assignments and what they would be doing. And this was the first I learned that Dallas had a moniker, like the City of Hate. I never knew or never thought anything about that. Dallas to me was big money. You had the Hunt brothers, oil country, home of the big rich. I was surprised to hear this. I knew nothing about being a bad political environment.
Dallas Police Chief Jesse Curry has told the citizens and visitors that nothing must occur that will be disrespectful or degrading to the president. But there are those opposition signs. Now we see in brilliant evidence right now a Texas flag and a huge Confederate flag flying.
We undoubtedly will have a few pickets, as you have everywhere in the United States. There will probably be a few of the radical right wing, possibly a few of the radical left wing. But sincerely, we anticipate no trouble.
Being a young 19-year-old boy from Dallas, I never had seen a presidential motorcade. I didn't know what to expect. I had no idea. But my number one thing was to go and work and doing what you had to do and get home. Well, that Friday, it felt like any other Friday morning. I drove Lee Harvey Oswald to work because Lee did not own a car. We listened to the radio. Lee wasn't a big talker. He would not initiate a conversation. The thing he would talk most about was his child. And I noticed a package on the back seat. And I just glanced at it. I didn't look at it. I said, "What's in the package, Lee?" And he says, "Curtain rods." And we got to work at Texas School Book Depository. And he gets out, gets the package, and he walked off. We always walk together, but not this morning. And it never dawned on me anything was different.
When we arrived at Love Field, there was a huge crowd waiting to see the president. I put the boys in their Sunday best clothes, and we both dressed up. We were excited. We said we were taking the children, but I think we were more interested in seeing the president and first lady than the kids. They didn't know who they were.
Cal and myself were glad to be there. It's not an everyday event that the President of the United States comes to Dallas, Texas. And it looked like the best place to be was out at Love Field as the plane came in.
And here comes the presidential plane, Air Force Number 1. The official greeting party is consisting of the Vice President, Lyndon Johnson, and Mrs. Johnson, of course.
At the airport in Love Field on arrival, there's large crowds. President Kennedy, he just headed straight for the fence where the people were. Mrs. Kennedy normally wouldn't do that, but she went right along right behind him, and so I accompanied her. We knew that there was a group in Dallas that did not like or did not agree with President Kennedy's position on many things. Now, how far they were willing to go for that, I did not know. We did not know. You never know what's in that crowd, who is in that crowd.
I mean, the crowd was pushing, just surged around us, and we weren't able to get any further. I wasn't able to really get up close. And Bill said, I think we can probably get ahead of the motorcade and get down where we could get maybe a closer look.
And now, President and First Lady are retreating from the fence. They're heading now for the official limousine where Governor Connolly stands, waiting their arrival so that they can make their way downtown.
Gotta get to the car.
Now, it had been raining lightly, but it had stopped. By the time we were ready to leave, the word was, the top is to be off. The president insisted on having an open car was because he wanted to be felt as close to the people as possible. He wanted the people to feel there was never any barrier between them and him. We started to drive through the outskirts of Dallas. And I was surveying the crowd, just scanning them to see what was going on. Everywhere that they could get to see President and Mrs. Kennedy, they tried to get. I jumped from my position on the follow-up car and went to the rear bumper of the presidential vehicle and got up on top of there to be as close to Mrs. Kennedy as I could be, because I didn't know what to expect from any of these people who were that close to her.
I was in the press bus because I could sit up front in the bus and see out. There was something magical about this trip, and I think it was Jackie and the fact that he brought her. I don't know, I changed my opinion about Dallas and Texas. It was not a cold city. It made a big difference because Jackie was there, and I think that the town really was very, very welcoming to her. It was a celebration that they were getting a chance to see this First Lady who'd never been to Dallas. And of course, it changed her life.
I have this sense of guilt. I should have been able to do more than I did. I wasn't fast enough. I guess I wasn't faster than a speeding bullet.
It appears as though something has happened in the motorcade route. Something, I repeat, has happened in the motorcade route. The limousine is now traveling at a very high rate of speed. Secret Service men standing up in the limousine now.
Mrs. Kennedy was screaming. They've shot his head off. I love you, Jack.
It was at Dealey Plaza. We saw the people trying to escape the danger. I saw women taking their shoes off, running without heels. I saw a father take his little boy, place the boy on the ground, and he put his body on top of the boy.
We were one lane width away from him when he was shot in the head. I think my maternal instinct kicked in. Never in my mind when I got up that morning did I think that I would see something so horrific.
I was shouting it to the driver, "Get us to the hospital, get us to the hospital." Mrs. Kennedy was in shock with the president's head in her lap. When we got to Parkland Hospital, Mrs. Kennedy had hold of his body, and she would not let go. I pleaded with her. I said, "Please, Mrs. Kennedy, let us help the president." Got no response at all. And then I realized she wasn't going to let go. So I took my suit coat off and covered up his back, his head, shoulders, and upper back. And when I did that, she let go.
The latest unconfirmed report from the emergency room is that he is still alive. Texas Governor John Connally also was hit by the bullets.
We got to trauma room 1. I kind of got pushed in with the crowd right beside his shoes or feet. I couldn't look at the president. I was feeling faint. I knew if I looked at him, I'd pass out. And it was, I was just, you can't do this, Paul. And that was a time, you're needed more. You gotta stay with it. You gotta hang in there. I heard a doctor shout, "Let me through, let me through." And they're asking everybody to evacuate the room. And it was about that time somebody came out and asked for if anyone knew the president's blood type. And Mrs. Kennedy kind of stood up and said, "Oh, do you mean he's alive?" And it was just utter silence.
My boss yelled at me, "Clint, get a telephone, open up a line to the White House, let them know what's going on." The operator said, "Mr. Hill, I'm sorry, but Robert Kennedy wants to talk to you." I said, "Okay, fine. Mr. Attorney General, can I help you?" He said, "Clint," he said, "what's going on down there?" I said, "Both President Kennedy and the governor have been shot." And he said, "Well, how bad is it?" And so I just said, "Well, it's as bad as it could get." And with that, he just hung up the phone. Mrs. Kennedy, she knew as soon as he fell in her lap, I'm sure she knew that the president could not have survived and was, in fact, dead.
This is Edwin Newman in the NBC newsroom in New York. This information from Dallas. President Kennedy was given the last holy rites of the Roman Catholic Church today. That was, of course, after he was shot down by a would-be assassin while he was riding in a caravan through downtown Dallas. Two priests who were with President Kennedy say he is dead of bullet wounds. This is the latest information we have from Dallas.
We will attempt now to get to station WBAP-TV.
Every 5 minutes, approximately 25 minutes, RTV expect to Parkland Memorial Hospital in Dallas.
What's your feeling right now?
I really couldn't say. Really, right now I just don't know what to do. I don't even know where to go, what to say. There's nothing for me to say.
Yeah, it's my belief that the United States lost its innocence on November 22nd, 1963.
The search now centers at the area near the old Texas School Book Depository building, and there is a possibility that the would-be assassin is still inside that building.
When most people are running away, that's when police officers are running in.
The plane, which is carrying the president's body in a bronze casket, also has now President Lyndon Johnson, as well as Mrs. Kennedy.
she said, "Let them see what they have done."
Biggest threat to human rights is the reaction caused by terrorism everywhere. And that is something we have to be sensitive to, whether it's a car bomb blowing up in the Middle East or a religious fanatic. But we're going to talk about it. The Prime Minister probably got some good ideas, and we'll discuss it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike, please.
I wanted to scream. I said, no, you can't do that. You don't get to scream.
Inside of this building.
This just isn't the most wanted man in America. This is the most wanted man in the world.
Americans attacking Americans. It's unbelievable.
Make no mistake about it, this was an attack on the United States, our way of life, and everything we believe in.
That day was the best and worst thing that ever happened to me. I used to think as a fireman, I don't wish a fire on anybody's house, but if there's going to be one, I want to be there.
Wake up, Oklahoma City. It's a gorgeous start on this Wednesday morning, April 19th, right here.
Oklahoma is in the heartland, middle America. We're called the belt buckle of the Bible Belt.
I think Oklahomans were seen as backwoods. You see a lot of TV shows and they make fun of our country accents and that type of thing.
We like our football, we like our families, and we love our faith.
Oklahoma City 89ers had a ball game planned for this evening against Omaha.
Spencer's here now with the weather coming up on almost 8 after the hour.
Chase and Colton were pretty easygoing, pretty easy kids. So I was probably the more difficult one in the morning because I didn't want to get up. You know, I preferred to sleep all day at age 22. Every morning on the way to, we called it school, daycare, we would sing songs.
Hi, Punky Head.
Whoa.
Are we on our way to school?
Sing a song and then go home and watch
Sing
it.
that love song your mama taught you.
Disney, when nothing else could help, love lifted nothing.
That morning, I dropped Chase and Colton off at the daycare inside of the Murrah building.
I normally got to work a little bit early because it was all about wanting to visit with everybody. I didn't really care about the work. I just wanted to talk. The Murrah building was basically a melting pot. There was a lot of law enforcement agencies like Secret Service, the ATF, military. You really had all different types of people. It was a cross-section of America. The credit union was sort of different because we weren't really a federal agency.
Hello. Hi, that's our auditor.
I'm currently neighborhood auditor. I'm here to audit Kim.
No, I don't do it.
We were sort of the hub of the entire building.
Hi. No, you gotta have your pictures. This is Colleen. She's a loan officer.
I'm here too, stupid.
This is the teller line.
There were all different kinds of people who would come into the credit union to do transactions, and some of them were the ATF agents. They would cause quite the commotion because all of us girls thought they were so cute, and they would come in to get lunch money, and we were always hoping they came to our window, so yeah.
Could you open that for me? If you'll take the thing off. Too late.
I was really struggling, I think, to find who I was because I had had such bad self-esteem and had gained quite a bit of weight. But I did really like where I worked. It was my friend group. It was my emotional support. It was a lot more than just a job. That morning, I sat down at my desk, which was maybe about 20 feet or so from the front glass windows of the Murrah building. But then everything changed.
Okay.
Where? Okay, 916. Stop us on the air, please. Just tell us what happened, what you heard. Just a second. Okay.
Our TV station's about 10 miles from downtown Oklahoma City, and literally our building shook. I'd only been there just over a week, so I didn't even know half the people in the newsroom that I was working with at the time. In that commotion and the chaos of it, it just seemed like just get as much information as fast as you possibly can.
Joyce, if we could get an eyewitness on the phone to talk to Tammy.
Yeah, send it to 9160.
And our news director at the time, Joyce Reach, she started getting everyone in place immediately. Tammy, get on the air, get to the control room. I mean, it was kind of like 1, 2, 3, 4, go.
I'm Tammy Payne in the TV9 newsroom. If you are anywhere downtown, you probably heard it and felt it. An explosion of some kind downtown.
Injured people at the federal courthouse. The explosion at the federal building, apparently.
Federal courthouse at the federal building.
Federal
okay.
building, yeah. Yeah, you have numerous injuries. Okay,
Numerous injuries.
Thanks for calling. It's both in Yukon.
Oh, okay.
And Joyce told me, if you have information, go give it to Tammy. And I remember running over and I thought, uh-oh, do I interrupt her or what? And I just thought, just do it.
An explosion at the federal court building downtown. That is where it took place, and we do know there are a number of injuries.
It was felt in Yukon, and they're evacuating several of the buildings downtown. We know for sure.
You can imagine the evacuations taking place downtown as well.
TV9.
We were just trying to find out what in the heck happened. I think we thought it was a natural gas explosion downtown.
10-4, 5th and Broadway, Larry. Who are you with?
Get a photographer to it.
Then Joyce said, get the helicopter in downtown Oklahoma City. We had to find out what was going on.
If I would have followed my normal routine at 9:02 a.m., I would have been in my office on the 9th floor of the Federal Building. But I stopped for a cup of coffee and then got my G-Ride, my government car, and drove to Oklahoma City. I'm driving south, and suddenly my radio started crackling, and you hear this scratchy, can anybody hear me? And I immediately knew it was Luke. I met Luke Franie when he first came on in 1988, and he was a young agent, you know, that was just full of fire. So we hit it off right away. We had a common bond in that we both loved to hunt. As a matter of fact, he's the guy that taught me how to deer and duck and goose hunt. We became fast friends, and eventually we became just like brothers. So I just picked the radio up. I said, yeah, Luke, go ahead. And he said, man, the office just blew up. He says, I don't know if it was a gas explosion or whatever. DEA's gone, Secret Service is gone, most of our office is gone, and so he's telling me this. And I'm trying to figure out what he's saying, and as I come down the road, I could come on a little crest, you could see Oklahoma City, then you go down a little swell. I would come up, and then I saw some smoke coming from downtown Oklahoma City. There was a lot of smoke. I just really couldn't process what I was seeing. And that's when I realized that Luke was trapped in that building. So I just put the hammer down, and I'm speeding towards Oklahoma City.
Ready, Bob? Got it.
I couldn't even believe what I was seeing. I just know, oh my gosh, this is devastating. Everyone knew someone, or everyone was connected somehow to someone at the Federal Building in downtown Oklahoma City.
Okay, I'm ready.
Here is a live picture from Ranger 9. I-35, I-40, across there, Federal Building. Jesse Gary is in Chopper 9. Jesse, tell us what you're seeing from the air.
Tammy, you can see thick black smoke billowing from the Federal Court Building downtown, and there's debris, glass, building matter spread on several downtown blocks. We can see glass blown out of other downtown office buildings about 5 blocks away. It looks like part of the building has been blown away. We'll have to bank around to the other side so I can get a better view of it.
No, Channel 5 got hit here on the Broadway extension. It's clear now. Broadway's clear.
Unless it spread from somewhere. And that's a Federal building.
here, about a third of the building has been blown away.
I heard this woman screaming in my ear, "Jesus, help me." And then I realized that was me. That was my voice. I didn't even recognize the sound of my own voice. It was such a terrifying scream. I remember having a hard time like getting air. And then when I did get a breath, it burned all the way down. Everything got quiet. So it was like all this noise and screaming and everything, and then instantly nothing, like nothing. And I realized I couldn't move, and everything was black. My first thought was, where was everybody else? Where are my friends?
And then I started getting worried that whatever had happened,
I'm screaming and there's nobody here. Maybe everybody's dead and maybe I'm the only person left alive.
I remember running down the street, just gawking and staring at the building. I ran around the back of the building and I looked up and I saw Luke trapped on the 9th floor. My mind wouldn't let me think about the enormity of how horrendous this was. I told him I'm going to do whatever I can to help. But I was wondering how he was going to get out because I knew the building would have to be unstable at that moment because this thing doesn't look like it's going to be able to last much longer.
Going towards the smoke that day, we knew somebody was going to be hurt. Turns out there was a lot of people hurt. There were hundreds of people heading towards us, all of them bleeding.
He's right in the transport hole right here. Right here, man.
It feels like something out of a movie. I mean, it's not something you expect to see in real life, and not in Oklahoma. It's all hands on deck. People were there trying to get people out of the buildings in any way they could. I remember seeing these men carry this lady out in a chair.
and I was in and out of consciousness. I couldn't open my eyes. I would hear the people telling me, stay with us, stay with us.
All right, it's gonna be uncomfortable. That's good. Fasten it.
And at that point, I realized my dress had hiked up. I don't know how I did it, as what a mess I was, but it was like my mother's voice telling me to make myself presentable, and I sort of got up a little to pull my dress right. It was like, okay, I better somehow try to figure out how to gain some dignity. And then I heard my coworker saying, Fran, the building has blown up. There was just this disconnect in me as to why would all this blow up? Was it just Oklahoma City? Was it other cities? I thought it was a group of terrorists from the Middle East. It was just angry. I thought, how dare you even do this? Here in the United States, even anywhere. You know, how dare you do that? And I kept thinking, is this war? Are we in war?
This was something the FBI had seen in Africa, Middle East, Northern Ireland, but this just did not occur here, particularly in an area like Oklahoma City. This was my city and my state. You had a crater that was located right in front of the building, which would show that it was the result of a major bomb. On any particular day, there could be probably 1,000 people that were in and out of that building. I couldn't save those who had already died, but I wanted to at least get justice for those who had died and those who had been injured, and find the person who did it.
You see everybody running past you, and you're walking the other direction. You're going towards the building. As we got in the building, it was really dark. It was amazing how dark it was. If you didn't have a flashlight, you're going to just walk off the edge of the stairs and fall. The glass on the floor is so slippery, it makes you, it's like walking on ice.
Bend down to the bottom yet?
The first lady we found, she was dazed from all that just happened. I stopped and knelt down next to her, and she grabbed me by the collar, sucked me down to her nose, put my nose and her nose together, and said, "Young man, there are babies on the second floor." She shook me and said, "You've got to get up there and get those babies. There's a daycare center." My kids were at a daycare center. Knowing how many kids are in my kids' daycare center, having chocolate milk and donuts, if your mind is working that way, that's what I'm picturing is up there. I got to the daycare center, and a third of it was on the first floor. It collapsed. So what was down there was in the debris pile. What was left was children's stuff. Didn't see any kids. That was unnerving, because if they weren't up there with me, were they down there in the pile?
As the details were coming in, you really don't have time to process because you're being so inundated. It's just like overload.
We're getting some really bad news. We're getting word that on an average day, there are 30 children at a daycare center on the second floor of this building.
When we heard the explosion from our office, that's when I took off running. And as I got closer, I could tell, oh my God, it's coming from that building. And that's where Chase and Colton are. True panic set in. And I'm just looking around for any familiar face at all. I felt like we were walking around in circles. And I got to the Murrah building, to the back of it, and I could see the back of the building, and it was, you could tell it was just completely devastated on the back. But it wasn't until I got around to the front that I could just, it was just gone. That's when my heart just sank. God was not going to take one and leave the other without his brother. I knew that. In one way or the other, I needed to find Chase and Colton.
I'd been treating adults. Lots of them, lots and lots of them. I didn't realize children were involved in this. And I turned around and somebody was carrying this child.
Got one here! Hey, child here! Out of the way. Move back, folks.
He's from daycare to YMCA, I guess.
When I took the little boy, he could just tell he was terrified.
Can you tell me your name? Can you tell me your name?
And he just latched onto me. You know, he grabbed the back of my collar and the front of my shirt, and I got down on my knees and went to lay him down, and he wouldn't let go of me. I think as a mom, when you encounter a child, it shouldn't, but it affected me. A tear came to my eye, and I thought, nope, you can't do that. I looked up and I saw a woman watching me intently. I said, "Do you know him?" She said, "Yes, I'm his teacher." And I said, "Get down and let him see you. But you're going to have to get real close to him because he can't hear you. There's too much going on." And she got down and called his name. And she said, "I'm right here. I'm right here." Then the teacher asked me if I knew where his brother was, and I said, "I haven't seen any more children." My mind was just at a standstill as far as emotions. If I'd allowed my mind to go there, I wouldn't have been able to do my job. I would have sat there and cried until somebody dragged me out, and that doesn't help anybody. At the time, somebody's depending on you. was just hoping somebody else was helping his brother.
There's another child coming. Has anybody seen? What's that? Another kid. Where? Here he is, here he is. Just sitting here? Yeah, just sit right here.
And I heard someone yell that they had a child. And there was a man holding a little boy. And she said, that's him. That's his brother. It was an amazing feeling to see him. You know, what are the chances of him being right there?
Just went and tried to see if I could be of assistance in some kind of a way. You know right now? No.
And I just wanted to keep them together. So we laid him on the other end of the backboard, laid him feet to feet, and let them know that, you know, that's your brother's foot. And that seemed to calm them down a lot. And we got them in an ambulance and sent them to the hospital. I'm so thankful they weren't hurt any worse than they were. They were lucky little children. That's the first time I stopped long enough to catch my breath, and several medics were talking, and that's when I found out that it was a bomb. I had no idea up until then that it was a bomb. That hurt, because I thought, well, how could anybody do this on purpose? You know, that bomb went off right in front of that daycare. And to think somebody could be that evil is just beyond comprehension.
My brother, Danny, he worked for the Yukon Police Department at the time of the bombing. And he said that he was going to go find Chase and Colton. I don't think it was that long after he came back and had this look on his face of just complete horror. And I knew right then that Chase and Colton were soaring with the angels. I just already knew. He started just bawling. We all did. You know, just having him be the one, my brother be the one to find both of my children and bring them back to me. You know, he'll always be my hero. I lived for those boys. I mean, they were all, every ounce of my being went into making sure that they were cared for and loved and happy. But most importantly, they loved each other so much. So I'm just glad that they're together.
I was still in my chair. I was upside down, buried under all this rubble. But my right hand was sticking out of the side of the rubble pile. So my right hand was free. And I heard men's voices. And I heard a man say, "Let's split up, let's look for the daycare babies." I started screaming, and this man says, I hear you, child. How old are you?" And I didn't answer right away because I was afraid that if I told him that he wouldn't come get me. So I said, I'm sorry, I'm 28. And he said, that's okay, that's okay. And he started yelling, we have a live one, we have a live one, I need backup, I need help. And then I felt people grab my hand and my arm, and I thought they were getting ready to pull me up and out. Like that was it, like they're getting ready to get me out. But something about the way they were talking to each other, it didn't look good.
I get notice at around 10:20 that potentially another device has been found in the building. I don't have complete information what this device is. It's described as a bomb, it's described as a rocket. The pressure was mounting and mounting, and I had to make a decision. Do I evacuate the building? We had dispatched FBI agents, local police, fire, highway patrol were all inside the building. They were working on getting people out, but some were still trapped, and it appeared if they were not removed promptly, they were going to die. So not an easy decision to make, but I had no alternative. I made the call.
Headquarters to all companies, including Squad 18, evacuate the federal building, evacuate the federal building.
Can you estimate how many people might be working in there at any given time like tonight? Get back! Get him back! Get him back! Where is it? Go, 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 go!
I'm talking to Luke, and I see all these firemen, first responders, police officers running away from the building. And I'm looking, and I'm like, hey, what's going on? And people are just sprinting by. And somebody said, they found another bomb. And I had my radio, and I said, Luke, hold on to what you can. When law enforcement or first responders say run, you run. I jumped behind a brick wall a couple blocks away, but it's like I abandoned Luke. I couldn't have done anything, but you don't leave your buddy. And I always felt bad about not being brave enough to stand there. It would have been silly and I would have been wrong, but that's always haunted me.
I was thinking, please don't leave me. Don't leave me.
Getting firemen to leave the building, that's just right next to impossible. Nobody wanted to leave their patients. Well, who would? This is what you took the job to do. There was one of my team on the first floor down with Amy. I had to go down there where she was at and give an order. I said, you guys gotta go. And they said, give us 5 minutes, Chief, give us 5 minutes. I said, I can't give you 30 seconds. There's a device they tell me is going to go. I'm cussed at, I'm bad-mouthed, I'm pointed, you can't make me, you gotta leave. I can't leave you in here. I slid down the debris pile, talked to Amy through a crack in the beam. I said, we have to go. Everybody has to go. She said, would you leave your wife like this? Man, I have to go. You're gonna leave me here? And I thought, you know, I'll just stay. I said, well, and the flashlight went across my eyes. I looked up and it was one of my guys. And he said, practice what you preach. Be the leader. You're supposed to be a leader. Be a leader. Practice what you preach. And I had to tell Amy, we have to go. Without a doubt, that moment was the worst of my career, maybe of my life. You're wanting to serve, help people, and this is an extraordinary situation. And to practice what I preach and to go do that, it's a fight against your own soul. Do you know what it's like to walk out of the building in the dark shadows, slipping and sliding in debris, and you hear a woman behind you crying and begging you to stay? We walked across the street, and you can hear still, you're talking louder to each other. I think it was an unconscious act to help cover the sounds behind you.
It was complete silence. I remember trying to make myself fall asleep. Maybe if I fall asleep, I'll die in my sleep. And I couldn't make myself fall asleep. There was nothing I could do. I lay there, basically buried alive, upside down in my chair, in this rubble, and just waiting to die.
Incredibly dangerous situation with the condition of that building right now. If another bomb goes off, it's just going to come down completely.
Another bomb, move back.
And as we saw from the force of the last blast, anyone who's downtown is in terrible danger. The last one just caused glass to cover the streets. There's untold number of injuries and fatalities at this point.